Ball is life.
Welcome to Simon Gratch and Jake Boger's senior year fourth quarter stats project. We have Mr. J, third period, and Jake, take it over.
So the reason we decided to do this project titled #BallIsLife is because we just love, basketball. We've grown up watching basketball, and especially college basketball. March Madness is just kind of like, just like an American tradition. Even if people don't like basketball, everyone kind of gets involved with March Madness, and kind of brings everyone together. And it's very, very unpredictable, which is why we thought it would be a good topic for a statistics project, because we wanted to see if there was any way to better predict results. And this could have practical applications such as, winning money, whether it's just within like a pool with your friends, or ESPN giving $1 million to the best bracket. If you could better predict what would happen in the tournament, you have a better chance to make a lot of money.
So for our project, to show how unpredictable college basketball is, we found this video on YouTube just to show that you really can never predict what will happen and crazy things that happen. And this kind of goes along with the stats idea that, you want to be able to try and get, a good idea of what's going to happen. But at the end of the day, sometimes you just let nature take its way.
Dribble into a crowd, you want to draw a crowd. Number one on Durant. And again in Big 12 play, granted it's only 3 games and the competition hasn't been real stiff, but 33 points, 14 rebounds a game in the conference so far coming into tonight. He can only go against the teams you face, and although he's faced the bottom quadrant of the league, he's proven himself to be a great scorer in the league as well as out of it. Shot clock is down to 5.
If you watch the guy in the bottom left corner.
Passed out of it. Eton trying to save it. Flips it
up. So to collect data that we needed for this project, we basically had to go back for the last 5 NCAA tournaments and find the records of every single team that made the tournament, which is 320 teams. It was a lot. It was really tedious. Probably the most annoying part of this project, but it had to be done. And we felt that 5 years back was a good length to go because it's not, too far back, but it does give a pretty good sample size to get as accurate results as we can.
All right, since we had so much data, like 320 teams, we thought we had to consolidate in 2 different groups. And when we started off, when we had the 320 teams, we almost accidentally put all the pigtail games in, which would have added, I think, 16 to 20 more teams. And the pigtail games are the games that 2 teams would play in order to get into the tournament. So that doesn't mean that they actually are officially on the bracket. And then the reason we chose the Sweet 16 is because we decided that's probably kind of the pivotal moment. Like if you make the Sweet 16, that's, even if you lose after that, for most teams, that's a pretty successful year. And so we thought, Sweet 16, you still get a lot of variability between teams. Like I think George Mason a few years ago that, had 15 losses and made it there. But, they're most likely not going to make it to the Elite 8. But the Sweet 16 still kind of has
Florida Gulf Coast this year.
Still has like that like quality caliber, but maybe not like, the team that's going to win the tournament, And so after we created those 2 groups, then we had to, figure out how we wanted to, line up the data and stuff.
And speaking of Florida Gulf Coast, they're another great example of how unpredictable the tournament can be no matter how many statistical tests you run. They were a 15 seed, like probably most people who made a bracket had never heard of them. Yet they made it to the Sweet 16, beat Georgetown in the first round, one of the top teams in the country. And, they just did it with their high-flying style. You'll see an example of right here in this video. Excuse the ad. we don't control YouTube, unfortunately. Unless you like Mikey. I know you swag hard, Mr. J.
We earned it right at the end. Nobody gave it to us. So we got to go out there and take it. Feel me?
Chase Fuel.
He drops the end zone.
Eddie Murray.
Knight sets a screen. Homer looking. Winding up and slapping it down.
Hit that, Dougie. Chase Fueler's so raw. Andy Enfield, new coach at USC.
The Florida Gulf Coast story, this incredible story continues. They're going to the Sweet 16.
So when we originally ran this test in the third quarter, we only used one sample group, which was teams in those 5 tournaments that actually made it to the Sweet 16. So that kind of threw us off. We ended up running a one sample t-test because of this, and that turned out to be wrong. And we also just used the wrong mean. We got the mean of all the teams in the Sweet 16's losses for those 5 years, so we added them all up and divided by however many 80 it is. You know how to get a mean, Mr. J. And when in fact we wanted the mean of the losses that we wanted, which was 5, because that was our over-under, if you will. So then, after consulting with you, fourth quarter, we realized that we needed to run a 2-proportion test, with the 2 proportions being teams with 5 or less losses that made the tournament at all to all the teams that made the tournament, and then teams with 5 or less losses that made the Sweet 16 to teams in the Sweet 16 without 5 or less losses. And after running the 2 proportion tests, and you'll see our data in a minute, our results turned out to be bueno.
So we were just kind of thinking of like a little jazzy, sweet way to look at the graph. And so we created a box plot. And so as you can see, the mean of the actual data is, right around maybe between 7.5 and 8. And obviously, our null hypothesis was at 5. And as you can see, one of the teams, over 15 losses, definitely an outlier. And this box plot definitely shows that it, there's way more data between, quartile 1 and, quartile from the mean to quartile 4.
So this is the data we got when we ran a 2-proportion test. And as you can see, our 2 different groups, 1 and 2, were with group 1 being the teams that made the Sweet 16, with 20 being the amount of teams in the Sweet 16 that had 5 or less losses for those 5 tournaments. And group 2 is all the teams in the tournament for those 5 years, with 47 of them having 5 or less losses. And so, as you can see, we ran the 2-proportion test at a 95% confidence. And we got a z-value of 1.97, a p-value of 0.049, and a confidence interval of 0.0006 to 0.205.
Okay, so this right here is our conclusion. And me and Jake talked about this for a while, about what to conclude on. And since we had to go by the book, we had a p-value of 0.049, and with a 95% confidence interval, that means we need to be 0.05. And so because of that, since we're going by the book and not just purely off what we would think, we decided that we would have to reject it, even though it's so close to the 0.05.
And also, we don't know exactly how accurate this is, because when you look at the actual confidence interval at the 95% confidence, it's such a wide range from about 6/10,000ths to 2/10ths, which is a very, very wide range for a confidence interval. So we really, if we want to get technical, obviously we would have to reject, but we feel that, we conclude that we really can't conclude with this data, that we can't really conclude anything because the results are too inconclusive. We think that if we did want to conclude, we might try, if we had more time, obviously, to collect a lot of data, we could go back maybe 30, 40, 50 years and look at all those tournaments, and then maybe we could get more conclusive data. But at this point, we can't conclude.
Yeah, and so unfortunately, because of this, we're not going to be able to predict the next tournament and make a lot of money, but, maybe in the future we might be able to have a better idea.
We'll go back and look at more years because, we're all about that cash.
Yeah, and, especially with human error, you just never know what can happen. Someone just makes a wide open shot or misses a layup. Just, you never know.
So, that was our fourth quarter project, and shout out to you, Mr. J, for helping us with this. You got us on the right track with the 2-proportion test. And, that's it.
Check out our fishing competition.
And, look for our fishing rod assembly race coming this Wednesday in the talent show.
Little theater.
It's going to be the highlight of the day.
Third period.